Hi, it's Jonathan here again, and I'm an instructor with the Bristol Wessex Aeroplane Club. Today we're going to be looking at departure briefings, something we use a lot in commercial flying and a tool that I think can be really helpful in private flying as well to enhance safety and professionalism. So we're going to be looking at three things in this video. Firstly, what goes into a good departure briefing and why it's important. Second, you're going to join us for a departure briefing on a citation jet. And lastly, we will be looking at how to make an effective departure briefing when we're flying light aeroplanes single pilot. So, what goes into a good departure briefing?
The first part of the departure briefing covers human factors, am I fit to fly, machine, any defects with the aircraft, and environment, external factors that can affect the flight, for example, things published in the NOTAMs and the weather along route. The second part is more orientated to the initial routing after departure, for example, noise abatement procedures, the direction that we will fly, the stop altitude, departure weather, including crosswind components, whether the runway is wet or dry, and vitally, what we will do in the event of any abnormalities or emergencies.
Let's look at how this plays out then in the real world on a recent flight that Mike and I made in a citation jet with Centreline. So we've arrived at the airport and the first thing we're going to do is go and check the aeroplane.
Amongst many other things, we check the pitot tubes, the undercarriage and the oil. We check all of the aircraft's internal warning systems, including the fire warning,
left engine fire, right engine fire,
the undercarriage warning,
landing gear,
and battery temperature warning.
battery over temp,
We load our route into the flight computer, which is a combination of airways and airways exiting points. And we read many pages of NOTAMs and weather reports. Here's the high-level winds for our route.
So as you can see, the day so far has been pretty similar to a private flight. We've checked the airplane, checked the weather, checked the NOTAMs. Now let's jump in the cockpit and do a departure briefing.
So I'm here today with Captain Mike.
Hi.
And we're going to be doing a departure brief.
So thinking about the flight today in terms of human factors, machine and environment, then I'm feeling okay. How are you feeling, Mike?
Absolutely great.
Excellent. No reported defects with the aircraft except for the beacon, which we identified as not working. That's deferrable under the MEL because we're flying in daytime. And the environment, it's good weather all the way along the route today. Nothing to note in the NOTAMs and should be a good flight. Anything to add on that?
No, that's all understood. Excellent.
So we are going to be departing off runway 09. It's going to be the Exmoor 1 X-ray and I've got plate 10-3A.
Yeah, 26th of March.
A firm. So out of here on runway heading to 4.7D on the IBTS to be between 6 and 3,000 feet, and then it's a right turn to track 267 degrees to Sonnet to be between 3,500 and 6,000 feet, and then 245 out to Exmoor with a stop altitude of 6,000 feet, speed 250 or below flight level 100. For the taxi routing, I've got plate 10-9, if you got that one, Mike.
A firm, yep.
So we're here on the South Apron, expecting to taxi via hotel to the Holford Hotel, and then either backtrack the runway 09 because it's quiet, or cross via Delta and taxi up to Golf X-ray to hold. So we'll cover the emergency brief as well. Runway's dry today and plenty of runway length, we're not performance limited, so we'll stop for anything up to V1. After V1, we'll take the issue into the air,
no actions below 400 feet other than to call positive rate of climb and raise the gear. If it's an engine fire or failure, I'll call for flight level change V2 and we'll climb at V2 up to our acceleration altitude, 2,100 feet here at Bristol, before we accelerate and clean up the aircraft. In the event of an engine fire or failure, we'll request a visual circuit to land back here at Bristol. Anything else, we'll have a conversation about what we're going to do and see whether it's something where we can continue the flight or we do need to come back into Bristol, which is the best option as it's our maintenance base. Anything to add to that, Mike?
No, that's all clear.
So you've seen a commercial departure briefing now, and I think a lot of that is relevant to private flying as well. Now you could do the first part of it at home or in the clubhouse, the human factors, machine and environment, and then do the second part on routing as part of your pre-takeoff vital actions, the last item on the list. So why not write it on your checklist now, departure briefing. Let's have a look at a VFR departure briefing now. I'm doing it in the parking area with the engine off because that makes it easier for filming. But if you can imagine that we're at the holding point with our power checks done and this is the last item on the pre-takeoff vital actions checklist.
So now we're in a PA28 and we've got our departure clearance, which is to leave the zone via the Avonmouth Bridge, not above altitude 2,000 feet, squawking 5070. It's runway 27 in use at Bristol and it's a nice day, as you can see. Cav OK, clear blue skies and sunshine. So I'm going to talk through the departure brief as if I'm giving it to somebody else sitting in the plane, but equally you could just talk it through yourself in your mind or even talk aloud if it helps you. So the stop altitude for the departure is 2,000 feet, so my plan is to level off at 1,800 feet to give me a 200 margin buffer. It's going to be a right turn after departure, heading towards the Avon Bridge, which is broadly a heading of north. I'll be aiming for the red cranes initially, out that way. Now, in terms of the taxi routing, I'm here in the aircraft parking, so I'm expecting to taxi out via Juliet and then taxiway hotel up to Hotel X-Ray to hold, where I'll do the power checks. Emergency briefs, let's think about that. So whatever happens, if there's something I'm not comfortable with in the takeoff roll, be it a funny noise from the engine, a rattle, anything, insufficient power being developed, I'm going to close the throttle, apply the brakes and bring the aircraft to a halt, and I will tell ATC I'm stopping and I'll vacate the runway if possible. If anything goes wrong after rotation, there's a number of options. So if it happens just after we've lifted off, my actions will be to close the throttle and let the aircraft settle back onto the runway, and I will need to make a judgment call about how high I am and if there's sufficient useful runway remaining. If there's insufficient runway remaining to do that, then I will have to lower the nose of the aeroplane, trim for 75 knots and choose a suitable landing site. Now, off runway 27 there's very limited options. There's forest all around. The best options available to me are off to the left. There's a couple of fields there in a downward sloping valley that I would point towards and aim for to land into those. If there's a malfunction but I've still got sufficient power, I may opt to do a circuit or partial circuit back towards the airfield, but I would only do that if there's power remaining to keep the aircraft aloft, because in that case I could potentially turn downwind, and if there was an engine failure I could have the possibility to land back within the airfield boundary where there's plenty of grass and emergency services available.
And that was my departure briefing. I'm sure it's not perfect, I'm sure there's things that we could improve on, and please do feel free to leave comments or let me know anything that you include in your departure briefings or anything you would do differently. I'd be really interested to hear. So, as call to action then, if you haven't got it already, please do make a note under pre-takeoff vital actions, the last item on your list, the departure brief, including the direction you're going to go, the stop altitude and what you will do in the event of any emergencies. Thanks for watching and hope to see you next time. Bye for now. The first part. Come on, Steve.
Recording? Yeah, she can come out. Recording? Yeah, she can come out, that's fine. So we...